Well, hey kids, it's your old buddy, Dusty Dangerson. Today we're going to be talking about mutualism. And the best way I can demonstrate that to you is through mutually assured destruction. Now I've got my friend Larry over here off behind the camera. You put the gun down, Larry, I'm not ready. Quit pointing the gun at me, Larry. Jumpin' Jehoshaphat, you yellow-bellied. Oh! What a world, what a world, what a cruel, cruel world.
Hey guys, my name's Hunter and this is my channel, The Mutual Revolt. Today I want to talk about a little known train of thought in anarchism called mutualism. And what is it? Heads up, this is not exhaustive by any stretch, nor probably entirely concise. That's why it's an intro. And so the plan right now is to release a series of chapters across the next year so I can really flesh out the complexities and thinkers within the tradition. There's also another point that needs to be made here too. When it comes down to political terminology and ideological descriptions, things can get a little bit fuzzy. As mutualism has been used as a political description for a set of politics, it's been crafted not only by those who used it for themselves, but also as those who opposed them. The problem that then arises is that actually cutting up the people and ideas that have been related to mutualism into a nice little definition is a little bit difficult. So that said, we're going to start off with what mutualists today tend to think ideologically and how they politically align. All that said, let's jump in. If you asked a mutualist today what they believed, you'd find out first that they're an anarchist. Generally speaking. Someone who believes in getting rid of all governments, as well as capitalism, the economic system that we live under today. Instead of a government, they probably suggest polycentric networks and legal systems, platform cooperatives and commons, communes and radical municipalities that allow people to actually govern themselves and with agency. Economically, the landscape would look a bit different. Freed markets unencumbered by the monopoly privileges established through the government would work alongside commons and platforms that allow people to have an actual choice in their economic lives. There would exist the opportunity to either live in an organized community working alongside others, or off in your own domain, living off of the market. This state of affairs being dramatically different compared to today's domination by capitalist organizations like the modern corporation and company. Now the reason why mutualists suggest these would be because they perceive the government and capitalism as fundamentally authoritative and established through physical force. All the while this state of affairs never actually having been open to being voted on. I mean, when was the last time you got to vote yes or no to even having a government? To the mutualists, the government is an ensemble of physical force and external regulation that detrimentally affects and controls the population. Capitalism can be understood as a historical tendency in which individual capitalists and faceless corporations are given a form of legal supremacy via the government. As a result, we see a pernicious hierarchy established, and a class society perpetuated. Of chief concern is the fact that one's ability to survive is tied to the means of production, which most of the population works, but doesn't own, and never has the opportunity to do so. To understand this analysis a little bit better, we just need to look back at the name, mutualism. Mutual, or mutuality, meaning a focus on the process of reciprocity. Better yet, understanding how people meet each other squarely without one having the threat of physical force behind them in the situation. As Shawn Wilbur, probably the most eminent scholar on the history of this train of thought, puts it, it's the golden rule, more or less. Not to be mistaken with Hammurabi's whole eye for an eye thing.
Hey, you didn't do your dishes.
Yes, I did! Those are yours!
You're full of crap, man.
Are you calling me a liar?
Well, I'm not calling you to dinner.
You shoot me, I shoot you!
You shoot me, I shoot you.
What ho? You men, you beasts that quench the thirst of your pernicious rage with purple fountains issuing from your veins. On pain of torture, throw from your bloody hands your mistempered weapons to the ground. Fine. No drugs. No drugs for this den of hedonists and wretches.
Oh, come on, man.
No.
So yeah, not like that. To further quote Shawn Wilbur, mutualism is not a social, political, or economic system. It is, at its core, an ethical philosophy. We begin with mutuality or reciprocity, the golden rule more or less. and then seek to apply it to a variety of situations. As a result, under mutualism, every meaningfully social relation will form an anarchic encounter between two unique individuals, free absolutes, no matter what layers of convention we pile on it. Now, mutualism is usually traced back to the 19th century philosopher, economist, and social theorist Pierre-Joseph Proudhon. Now, there's a little bit more to it than that, but he's at least the best starting place I have right now. Other than Proudhon, there's also a line of English thinkers that are associated with mutualism, such as William Batchelor Greene, Benjamin R. Tucker, as well as Clarence Schwartz. And that's not to mention a host of French radicals, such as Charles-François Chevet, Jean de Join, as well as Desiree Gay, all of whose names I definitely just butchered. As a heads up, there's a lot of discrepancies between the politics of the people mentioned before, in part because of the language barrier, and also because a lot of Proudhon's work was never fully translated. Also, the philosophy seems to have gone underground for most of the 20th century. Mutualism really wasn't used as a term to describe someone's politics until recently, in part thanks to the works of Kevin Carson and Shawn Wilbur, or as I like to call them, Daddy Kevin and Daddy Shawn.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more.
It's really with the release of their work in the early 2000s in which people started to come back to these ideas of mutualism. That said, it's important to note that Kevin Carson doesn't really go by the term mutualist anymore, kind of going for instead the anarchist without adjectives terminology. And it also seems that Shawn Wilbur really questions how related modern mutualism and anarchism are to their complex ideological history. So, you know, it's complicated. It's all just really complicated. So as I said, there's a lot to unpack here. And so this is just the first chapter of a series that'll go further into mutualism as it's been taken on as a political philosophy, economics, and in ethics. My hope is that this can both better inform individuals interested in the terminology and the idea of mutualism, as well as fill in a much-needed gap on YouTube that seems to be lacking on the subject. So, just as Proudhon said that society proceeds by approximation, so too will we. And I hope you guys will stick around for that ride. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate you watching. If you're interested, give this a like, and also consider subscribing. Have a great week, comrades. Bye.
Well, that's all, folks. Now, we here at the Cooperative would like to just say, we apologize for the low quality of the film you saw before. Unfortunately, we have been in the process of changing our studio, and the film you saw before was made during that process. We can guarantee it to you that we will not mess up like that again. Now, y'all come back now, you hear?